Chaske Spencer just got an Independent Spirit Award nomination for his performance in Wild Indian. I'm Matt Noble at Gold Derby, and I wanted to ask you, Chaske, what was the wildest thing about making Wild Indian?
I think it was the facial tattoos. That was pretty intense, and walking around with them, because once you apply them, it's there. You keep them on the whole time, because for the makeup artist, it's very difficult to keep reapplying them. And I definitely got some looks while filming around that area. Yeah.
What was it like to inhibit this character, where so much of what he's carrying around is sort of stuff from the past?
Mm-hmm. It was, I love roles like this. They're very heavy, and there's a lot of. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay. And there's a lot of, like I said, there's a lot of weight to it, and I think the most difficult thing was just to stay in that area with the character, because we didn't have that long of a time to film. It was very quick, so it allowed me to stay in the neighborhood and just explore that character, and also just sort of live in that skin for a while. And that was probably the most difficult, is just maintaining that energy.
What was the most challenging thing for you in approaching this character?
I think for me, it was trying to find a correlation with Teddo when it comes to trauma and also isolation. I don't really have a lot of in common with the character, so I had to dig and just explore those areas. And it was I think for me that was very rewarding, and also just probably let it go at the end of the day.
Yeah. How are you? Like you said, it's like you're not that similar to the character. Are there any ways you like Teddo?
I think how am I like Teddo? I would say the thing I could relate to Teddo is maybe just trying to find some place to belong. I felt that for me, in my own personal life, I've, fortunately and unfortunately, I've been a loner most of my life. So having that with Teddo, I could relate to the isolation and just trying to connect with people. And I've never been to prison or anything like that. So, having explored and research on YouTube, a lot of people have come out of that facility, and a lot had to do with just reconnecting with human beings and people on the outside.
Like, as playing a character, but also you start talking about like trying to sort of, the sort of yearning for belonging and trying to figure out where you belong and sort of being a loner and sort of stuff. Like, how does acting and performing help sort of either sort of help you find belonging, or help you sort of track your own path as a loner sort of thing?
Well, I'm such a loner, I had no friends, but I sort of just keep to myself. That's pretty much it. But say that question again. What was the question again?
Well, like how does acting and performing sort of help you find belonging? Or you can say if it doesn't.
I think it does in a sense. It's when I got into this business, I feel like when you sort of join a circus, and you end up working on these projects with all these creative people, and you bond with that, but it's such a short amount of time, or a period of time, and then you're off again. So it feels like you're a journeyman in some sense, and like a band of gypsies trying to film some movie. And I would say that's a sense of belonging that I have felt. And I love that. And I love connecting with other actors too, because, some of the scenes we do, we have to get very intimate very fast. And it's very uncomfortable sometimes to try to do those scenes when you just met the person, and then you have to get into a huge row with them, or, the scene takes place, whatever film we're doing.
Well, you and Michael are both big parts of this film. Michael Graz, who also has an
Yeah,
independent
yeah,
Spirit nomination, but as you said, this film was shot over a short period of time, and also you
yeah,
guys pretty much only have one scene together. So
yeah.
how was that? Even though you're both in the film so much, how was that, finding that chemistry with him and sort of like working on that scene when you did have so little time to probably get your bearings with it?
Yeah, yeah. It was, well, I've known Michael for years, and we've been in a couple of films in our past. And so I was in Woman Walks Ahead with him, and we run in the same circle of friends. So I already kind of, I knew him and admired his work. So it was really easy walking in. And I believe the I don't want to give him a lot away, but the confrontation scene, if I remember correctly, was the first scene when I walked in, when I came to work. So it was, right off the bat, we were off to the races, for me anyway. And
Yeah.
working with Michael, it's just when you work with, such a wonderful, talented actor like Michael, it's really easy. It's just like you slip into these characters, and bouncing the ball, throwing it back and forth with him was just, to me, it just seemed to go very well. And I think that scene it could have been a tough scene, but working with Lyle and Michael and the crew and having that support really made it, it made it fun more than traumatizing.
Yeah. And it's interesting you say that was like the first scene like you filmed. It's not your
Yeah.
first scene in the film from watching it
No.
chronologically. So how did
Yeah.
like starting with that as an actor, how did that
Mhm.
inform how you approached scenes that you filmed later but were
Yeah.
happening earlier?
Yeah. Well, I've done, I've been on a lot of films where, it doesn't take place in the right timeline,
Mm,
it's shot out of order. And so what I do is I just make sure I know the story and the arc. And I've already rehearsed it. And I've been attached to Wild India for some time before we started filming. So I had the scripts, and plus Lyle was sending me versions of the scripts. And I like that because every time I read it, there would be scenes cut in and out of each version of it. So, but even though the stuff he'd cut out, I was able to know where his mind was going with the character. So by the time I got there, I was already well rehearsed, and I had my lines. I knew exactly where I wanted the character, where I think he should go, but it never ends up the way you want it to go. And sometimes it goes into a whole different place where you weren't even expecting. And I think that's the magical part about filming and working with such talented people. And that's what happened with that scene. You just kind of let it go. And um, I had another just wonderful time working with Lyle, mainly going over script reversions and just telling him what the character, what we should bring to the scene.
Yeah. You talked a bit about how as an actor it's a bit like a circus.
Yeah.
What was sort of special or like sort of unique or magic about this particular big top, the Wild Indian big top that you went into?
Well, like I said, I got attached to it when we workshopped it at the Sundance Directors Lab. And there were times when we didn't know if it was going to happen or not because of money and funding. And when we finally got there, it was fun. I had a really wonderful time just to develop this character and finally see it come alive, and having Lyle, guide us into where he wanted his vision to go to. I love this shit. It's fun. If you do it, if you come in with some heart, and try to put some seasoning on your character, and finesse it's fun. It's fun to delve into those things.
Yeah. Like you've worked on like big blockbuster
Yeah.
films as well as these smaller independent sort of movies where there might be a bit more like funding sort of issues and will it
Yeah.
get
Yeah.
made and all that sort of like it's a real
Yeah.
journey
Yeah.
like sort of thing.
Hmm.
What sort of energy comes out of that sort of like those types of smaller films where there is a bit more like sort of uncertainty maybe in the process?
Yeah, well, it's crazy because you find those on huge budgets as well.
Yeah.
It's just a different problem.
Mm.
There's always
Yeah.
different problems with each project,
Mm.
and
Yeah.
I would say what I like about the independent film community and working at is it's obviously someone put a lot of time and effort into this, and wanted to make sure it was a really beautiful film. And what I like is that trying to give me 1 second here, try to word this.
That's fine.
Probably time, because you just have so much amount of time for an independent film, so you feel rushed, but you're running off the creativity and adrenaline of that. So I think that's one of the best things I like about independent film. Now, big budget movies, there's just a lot more there's just a lot more money. The catering's a lot better. You get a little more time. You can shoot a lot of takes if you would like, if you can. But there's just different aspects between both those worlds. But they're both fun. At the end of the day, you're still making a movie, and they're the same problems: weather, sound. That's just the way it goes.
I love big budget. There's some big budget films I love,
Yeah.
but I think a real strength of sort of the independent films and the
Yeah.
small films is you sort of are so focused in on the performances and the writing and those just smaller elements. Everything sort of has to just click so well, because I can't fall back on just a big special effects budget or something.
Yeah, but those are great too. I love big budget. I'm excited for The Matrix to come out. I think it comes out at midnight tonight, so I'm excited for that. But I love the independent film as well. You just get, if you're able to do both, which a lot of actors are, they're just two different kind of genres, but you still get the same fix.
Yeah. What do you think? And with Wild Indian, do you think there's a particular strength, on show with Indigenous storytelling? I feel like often we don't see as many of those stories break through into the mainstream and things like that, even though sort of traditionally, and not just the Native American, but a whole bunch of Indigenous communities are sort of have such a rich thousands of years culture of telling stories.
Yeah, we do. And I'm very very happy to see what's going on right now with more Indigenous directors, writers, producers finally coming, being able to perform and to tell their stories. I've been in this business a long time, to where I've seen the shift, and it's really it's a beautiful thing. And it's about time we get to tell our own stories and write them in a genre where we see fit, maybe a noir or a comedy. And I think people can relate to it, because at the end of the day, we're all just people. We all have the same problems: trying to pay rent, trying to get gas money, just trying to relate to people. So I think that now I think it's a real wonderful thing to see this all coming together now.
Is there anything you sort of, as an actor or a person, learnt from the experience of making Wild Indian?
Yeah, I think I learned, each time I do a project or, a film, I find that it changes me a little bit. And I think from Wild Indian, it's just the appreciation of being able to have your freedom, and being able to not go down those roads like what Teddo did, and seeing that how he deals with trauma. It's just I think it tells a really realistic story of trauma and for Teddo. And I don't ever want to experience that. So it's as an actor, I do appreciate when I walk away from a character learning something a little different about someone's way of life, having the empathy to explore that, and changing just a little bit.
Yeah. And in some sense, the film's a lot about the weight of secrets and guilt, and the sort of acting in some ways is sort of trying to reveal truths to different sort of feelings and journeys and stuff. Did you sort of how's it sort of telling a story where so much of there's sort of this internal sort of struggle that he's going through?
And what was the question? How was it?
How is it as an actor telling a story where so much of it's an internal sort of struggle and sort of keeping something bottled in?
Yeah, that was the challenge of it, is to keep it subtle and trying to just allow the character to happen and allow those moments to appear for the film and for the audience. I think that was the challenging part, just sitting on it for a while. And luckily, working with Lyle and Michael, like I said, in the crew, was just a lot of support, being able to stay in that area and between takes and setups. But it's not all doom and gloom. I mainly try to keep myself pretty loose when tackling those type of characters, and just trust in the audience. I sometimes characters in film, I try to treat the character like he's a product of a documentary, if I can, to make it as real as I possibly can. And but you just learn as you keep going, and the more I keep working, I just learn different types of techniques to do that.
It's an intense film. Was there any fun or levity on set?
Not for me. It was great. No, it's great working with everybody, but like it's a tough character. And I remember being like really, I would come home at night from working. I'd still be a little in a funk, and sometimes a character will come so organically that it's hard to turn off. But filming in that short space of time of what we had, I think we hit it just right, because I don't think I could. It would be very, very challenging to stay in that area for a long period of time. And luckily for independent, we were there not too long. I want to say I was filming with maybe a week and a half, 2 weeks. My stuff, that was it.
Yeah. Yeah. And how important was it to you that this film got recognized by Independent Spirit Awards, including your performance? And how did you find out you got nominated?
Oh, I think it's, I felt very grateful. And I think it's very important for Indigenous films to be seen, especially when they're written and directed by such an auteur as Lyle Corbin Mitchell. And I'm very proud of it. And I'm very grateful that being nominated for Best Supporting Actor, wasn't expecting it. So it was a very good morning hearing about that.
Oh, so good. Is there when you were growing up and thinking about getting to acting and sort of stuff like that, was there a particular performance or film or TV show or anything that sort of like inspired you? Or
there was I grew up in the 80s, and I was a teenager of the 90s, so I grew up on a lot of that cinema. I think for me, my parents are baby boomers, so I grew up also a lot of Pacino, De Niro films of the 70s, and living on an Indian reservation where there's not much going on. I rent, in my childhood and teenage years, I rented a lot of films. So there's a few that stuck out to me that really inspired me. One is The Indian Runner, which was written and directed by Sean Penn. I think that was back in the 80s. What else? God, there's a lot. TV show, I think Miami Vice. I was a huge Miami Vice when I was a kid. In the 80s, I mean, I think I was the only cat on a reservation wearing I know I was, with the white jacket and the blue pastel shirt and the white pants. Trying to keep them clean was very difficult living in a dust bowl. But some of stuff like that. Like I really dug Miami Vice when I was a kid, and The Indian Runner, At Close Range, Real Genius was a really a movie that I really like as well. I buy movies if I'm going to watch them over and over again, and it's just the same thing that most people have. I have Apocalypse Now. I have just a lot of movies from the 70s, especially the 70s.
Yeah. Oh, well, that's it. And if you were to describe your experience on Wild Indian in one word, what would it be?
Intense.
Intense. Yeah, I think that's a good one. I think that's a great one. Chaske, thanks so much for talking to us today.
Oh, thank you. Thanks so much, man. I love it down there. I love it down there. I've been down to Australia a few times. I love it down there. You guys are amazing.
Oh, well, it'd be great to see you back down here again.
I love it.
Oh, fantastic. And people watching this interview can go to goldderby.com where you can make your predictions for awards. And just all the best with the Independent Spirits and other award nominations and things.
Thank you so much. Thank you. And thank you for having me.